The drama surrounding the Indiana Fever has reached a level no one could have predicted. What started as a dream season filled with excitement, sellout crowds, and national headlines has quietly transformed into a full-blown power struggle that's drawn the attention of the highest offices in women's basketball. This isn't just a locker room issue or a clash of personalities. This is the WNBA itself stepping into the internal affairs of one of its own franchises, an unprecedented move that reveals just how fragile success can be when business, power, and pride collide behind the scenes. For a while, everything about the Fever's resurgence looked like a fairy tale. A beloved rookie sensation, a head coach with roots deep in Indiana basketball, and a city rediscovering its passion for the game. But beneath the surface of sold-out arenas and viral highlight reels, tension was quietly boiling between owner Steve Simon, head coach Stephanie White, and the unstoppable force of Caitlin Clark's influence. Insiders began whispering that the Fever's chemistry wasn't as harmonious as it seemed. Winning covered cracks, but those cracks were widening with each passing week. The more Clark's stardom grew, the more questions emerged about who truly ran the team, the coach, the owner, or the rookie phenom who had single-handedly transformed the league's ratings and revenue, reports suggest the first signs of trouble came when disagreements over media handling and player rotations turned into something deeper. Steve Simon wanted to shape the Fever's brand around Clark, building a family-friendly empire that could sell out arenas and attract mainstream sponsors. Stephanie White resisted, insisting her job was to coach a basketball team, not to direct a marketing campaign. Her frustration grew as decisions began to feel like they were being made for optics rather than basketball logic. And when some veterans started feeling sidelined by the constant spotlight on Clark, that quiet unease spread through the locker room like smoke in a closed room. What happened next sent shockwaves across the league. WNBA headquarters quietly dispatched senior operations staff to Indianapolis to conduct what insiders called a soft audit. There were no press releases, no public statements, no visible investigations, just closed-door meetings, late-night phone calls, and whispered evaluations of how the Fever were being run. The official reason was to assess organizational alignment. The unofficial one? To stop the Fever from imploding in front of the entire world. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert herself, reportedly, called Steve Simon to express concern over the optics of a team that had become the face of the WNBA's resurgence now, unraveling from the inside. For the first time in modern WNBA history, league officials weren't just observing, they were intervening. The Fever had effectively been placed under quiet supervision by the league. And that decision, while intended to stabilize the franchise, sent a chilling message to every other front office. No team is too powerful or too profitable to escape oversight. The move may have been about crisis management, but it looked a lot like control. At the center of this storm, whether she wanted to be or not, was Caitlin Clark. Her influence on the Fever, and the league as a whole, had grown beyond anything the WNBA had ever seen. Every decision from sponsorships to game scheduling seemed to orbit around her name. She wasn't just a player anymore. She was a business empire wearing a jersey. Insiders described it as a corporate halo effect. Whatever happened to Clark echoed across every franchise in the league. When she won, the league thrived. When she stumbled, the league's image trembled. It's no surprise, then, that her camp was reportedly in constant communication with league officials as the Fever crisis unfolded. This kind of influence comes with consequences. Other players began to sense a dangerous imbalance. Was Clark's rising power overshadowing the team's unity? Were the league's actions protecting a player instead of a franchise? These questions began surfacing not only in locker rooms, but among executives, agents, and even fans who wondered whether the WNBA had crossed a line. Because when the league itself starts steering the internal affairs of one of its teams, the boundaries between competition and corporate interests start to blur. Meanwhile, Stephanie White found herself caught in a no-win situation. Once celebrated for rebuilding the Fever into contenders, she was now under scrutiny for her communication style and leadership. Imagine trying to coach a team where every decision could be second-guessed by someone sitting in the commissioner's office. According to insiders, White felt cornered and exhausted, her authority shrinking by the day. Practices felt less like preparation and more like public relations meetings. Every rotation was analyzed, every timeout dissected. It wasn't basketball anymore. It was politics. Steve Simon, the longtime owner and businessman who had shepherded the Fever through years of obscurity, was facing his own reckoning. The same cautious, calculated approach that once defined his success now looked outdated in a league driven by celebrity branding and viral content. Sponsors wanted the Caitlin Clark effect, not corporate caution. And when the league stepped in, it wasn't just a blow to his authority, it was an unmistakable message. Simon no longer had full control over his own franchise. The reverberations didn't stop in Indiana. Across the league, executives and coaches were watching closely. If the WNBA could intervene with its most marketable team, what was stopping it from doing the same elsewhere? Private conversations among league officials turned tense. Some called it smart business, others called it overreach. The Players Association began monitoring the situation, concerned that such interference could set a precedent where star power dictates management decisions. What started as a local power struggle had become a national debate about who really governs women's basketball. Inside the Fever organization, the mood changed. Players joked about the league babysitting them, saying it felt like Big Sister was always watching. But the tension was real. Coaches operated under invisible pressure, knowing every move might be reported upstairs. Staff felt the strain too. What used to be a family atmosphere was now one of quiet paranoia. Yet paradoxically, as the controversy deepened, the Fever's popularity soared. Ticket sales remained strong, social media engagement skyrocketed, and sponsors stayed loyal. The chaos was bad for morale but good for business. Maybe that's the cruel irony of this entire saga. The turmoil that should have broken the team only made it more valuable. Every headline, every rumor, every leak kept the Fever and the WNBA at the center of the sports conversation. The question now is whether that was by accident or design. Some insiders whisper that the league's intervention wasn't just about fixing dysfunction, it was about controlling the narrative. The WNBA, after all, is in the midst of its biggest growth moment in decades. And in a media landscape that rewards controversy as much as success, keeping the Fever in the spotlight, no matter how turbulent, may have been part of the plan all along. But there's a price to pay when the league starts managing locker rooms instead of just games. The integrity of the competition begins to erode. Fans start wondering whether what they're watching is pure sport or scripted drama. And the people inside the system, players, coaches, owners, start losing faith in their own autonomy. The Fever may be thriving in the headlines, but beneath the surface, trust has become the rarest currency. So where does this story go next? Does Steve Simon fight to reclaim his power, or does he quietly step aside as the league tightens its grip? Does Stephanie White survive another season under microscopic scrutiny? And most importantly, how long before Caitlin Clark's influence stretches so far that even the WNBA itself bends around her? One thing is certain, the league has entered a new era. An era where power doesn't just come from the scoreboard but from the spotlight, where narrative matters as much as numbers, and where controlling the story might be just as important as winning the game. The Fever's situation isn't just a scandal, it's a signal. The WNBA is growing, but so is the cost of that growth, so what do you think? Did the WNBA step in to save its crown jewel, or did it just prove that no team is truly free anymore? Drop your thoughts below, and if you believe this league is changing before our very eyes, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and join the conversation. Because one thing's for sure, the Fever might never be the same again, and neither will the WNBA.